Hello everyone, today is Tuesday, April 2nd, 2019, and for me, this day is very important. I figured it's time to tell you all something that is very meaningful to me and hopefully meaningful to other people as well. Besides my weight, which is another discussion for another time I'll do when it's appropriate, but this day is important to me because it is Autism Awareness Day. And I am one of the millions of people in the United States that has been diagnosed with autism spectrum. Well, diagnosed on the autism spectrum. Excuse my vocabulary there. My old phone just went off because I was booting it up. But yeah, everyone, time for me to come clean. I am autistic. And I figured today would be the appropriate day to do this because, once again, it is National Autism Awareness Day. And I figured I'll go into more specifics of it. So, first up, I am diagnosed with higher functioning autism. It's called Asperger's syndrome. And my childhood, you could say, was a little bit rough because of it. When I was younger, what made it worse was when I was about 3 or say about 3. I think my mom told me I was 2 going on 3, so that would be appropriate. So around that age frame, I was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder, and the worst part of it was me getting diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or for short, ADD and ADHD. And it got worse, I would say, when I was around 8 or 9 years old. So, yeah, around that time frame. And when I was in public school, it was very difficult because teachers wouldn't understand me overall. I would have my moments. I was even listed at one time, and my mom even told me this right before I graduated high school, was that I was listed as emotionally disturbed. And that term was right because when I was younger, I was all over the place. I would have emotional outbursts. I would have my moments where, I couldn't deal with stuff, and it was very difficult. It was rough for me because, my parents couldn't understand it. And it took me till I was about 9 years old to pretty much, well, it took them to figure out that I possibly have something else in mind. And what I'm going to do right now, and for any parents that could be watching this video, because my goal on this channel is to always inform and educate. So if this phone would cooperate, if it could, I would like to give you the signs of autism, because I actually had a book of, let me think, yeah, it was a true story about a boy who was autistic and he got to ride a horse. So I'll try to read you all the signs of autism so we can all stay on point here. So pretty much symptoms of autism are behavioral inappropriate social interaction, poor eye contact, compulsive behavior, impulses, which sometimes that happens with me, repetitive movements, or persistent repetition of words or actions. And what also made it worse for me as a child was I had a learning disability. So it made it very hard to understand things very easily. And it's also hard for me, and especially when I was a kid, that I couldn't understand um, people's emotions or depression. But thankfully, with my ex Laura, and if she's watching this, me and her, and especially when I got older, when I first met her, and especially how on the night I almost got arrested in 2015 for disorderly conduct. Um, as friends, originally, we talked about our feelings, and this continued on, I would say, when we were boyfriend and girlfriend and until now. So, in a way, I think it took me till I was about almost 21 to figure out other people's emotions. And whenever Laura was upset in general, you know, I think I can thank her for that because it took me a long time to figure out the complexity of emotions. And for us people who are on the autism spectrum, it's very difficult. And online proof's right here, guys. Proof's right there. And going back to me, and especially how it was difficult for me as a child to deal with my emotions and to deal with other people's emotions. Um, Back in the summer of 2005, and excuse me for a second, my throat's dry, so after this I'm going to have to drink some water, but summer of 2005, and this also makes me tear up a little bit. I went to Long Island Jewish with my parents. I was 9 years old. I just finished up being a PS 133 in Belrose. And it's a very rough day because I didn't know what it was, and my mom had to try to explain it to me. But thankfully, I went to a special school called the Gersh Academy for about 8 years of my life, and I had wonderful teachers. And, it was. The journey got a little bit easier. I still had my moments. But there was one breakthrough teacher in Gersh Academy that finally was able to figure me out in a way. And that was Mrs. Bulger. I would say the best years of me being in Gersh was my high school years because Mrs. Bulger was nice but tough on us. And what I like the toughness was in the real world, you're going to have to deal with this and that. And she explained it very thoroughly. And I didn't want to get up because I could tell, especially how I first met her back in 8th grade, and how she introduced me to what high school was going to be like. It was like, I better listen to this, because this is going to be, the usual lecture from her. And if I don't listen, bad things are going to happen. And it did pay off. And you could say my impulsivity kind of got worse again through college, and I had to drop out because of my finances, and my impulses still can be a little bit bad in a way. But thanks to my ex Laura, I've gotten a little bit less when she tries to explain me things. And that's why I think we're still good friends. Because she understands me, at least. And pretty much I still have my rough days, but as an adult, it can be difficult. And another person I want to thank in a way is Passengers United, because he also is a guiding force of my YouTube channel lately, because he's telling me that you got to be careful of what you're doing and what you're posting, and the impulse is there. We all can have our impulses, autistic or not. This is my words, not his words, but and this is what I was saying to myself whenever Tarleton would tell me to do something smart, in a way. And I'll say its first name because, it's appropriate to do that. So, thanks to him, I guess I can try to keep my impulses down a little bit. Overall, I have to say, I still think about how rough April is. Just because I know people in my personal life who I've met who are on the autism spectrum. And they're still good friends of mine who I still speak to this day. And this month is for us. And do not be afraid to speak out about, your struggle with autism. Because that's what April is for. And I know some people don't want to deal with people who are autistic. But I always tell people that if you ever want to learn more about it, just watch the movie Rain Man. Because you can see how a typical normal person like Tom Cruise can get frustrated with a more severe case of autism like Raymond, who was played by Dustin Hoffman. And, sometimes our routines. Another thing about us on the autism spectrum is that we have to keep up with routines in a way, right? Thankfully for me, I'm kind of different. I like to plan things out in advance sometimes, and sometimes, if it's last minute and things can get out of my control, then, I deal with it. I'm trying to let it go over me in a way. But that is a good example of learning more about people on the autism spectrum. And I'm quickly going to mention one of my friends, Samantha Ellison. She was in a movie last year called Keep the Change. And I forget her co-star's name at the moment because it's just so hard to remember. But, Samantha is, I have to call her Samantha. Because that's how she prefers me to say it. And everybody else around her. But pretty much, she sometimes has her moments. But we all have to respect her emotions. Because as autistic people, we're very different. And we all have to be understood in a way that is different than a typical person is. And sometimes our thoughts can go insane. We can go crazy. We can ramble on for so much, but I've kept this video on topic because I do not want to be somebody who just goes on about what they're dealing with. I want this to be an open forum for everyone. And I know I've said so much in under 15 minutes, but I hope that I will continue to get the support, the nice words and gestures from people who I've gotten in life and even somewhat here on YouTube, but overall, I gotta thank my parents for letting me go to Gersh Academy, because if it wasn't for Gersh, trust me, I would have not had Mrs. Folger as a teacher. I would have had to deal with the rough misneglect of the public school system, and it would have gotten worse and worse and worse. And I would have not matured as a person. So, in a way, I gotta thank my parents, because over the years, they were looking out for me and making sure that, I would be in a suitable school where the teachers would want to understand the kids who had autism. And it took me a while to crack through, but here I am, and talking about my struggle. And I know other people have had struggles with it too. And it's fair that we all keep April as an open forum about what we've had to deal with and what we currently have to deal with as individuals who are on the autism spectrum levels. High, low functioning. We're just human. And we all need to be understood. So, that being all said, that's going to wrap up this video. And once again, thank you to everybody who's stuck with me for all this time. Whenever something's up with me, I figured, I'd let you all know, and this is one of the this is one of those moments. And once again, as far as my weight is concerned, I promise you all when the time comes, I'll give you all an update on that. So, that being all said, thank you all for watching. Until the next one, please take care.